door is open, so come on in. Sound check done, let's begin. Breaking news, the guest is you. Streaming live for you to view. Open House the podcast.
It came in really slow. You got your coffee?
I do.
Good. The wonders of running a live, I'm just going to cut that now. The wonders of running a live podcast. Good morning, everybody. It is Friday. You know what that means. It is time for Open House, the podcast.
Yep.
I am Johnny Awesome, and with me, as always, my wonderful co-host. She is something, everybody. I think you'd agree. And it is Summer Something, everyone. Wow, that came up loud, didn't it? Everything else came up kind of quiet. We are.
Yeah, I don't know.
We did not fix your mic.
We didn't.
Today is a fun day. We've got a really good show for you today. Here, I'm here. Do you want this back? You can have this back. I think if any problems, we're still playing music. I don't know what's happening. It's been a day. It's been a good day. Today's going to be an awesome day. We have a really good conversation today, and I actually talked to you a little bit about this earlier. Yeah. And you don't know. I don't know if you know much about this topic. Look, I got notes for the first time ever.
You do. You have organized. A lot of notes.
It is so many pages on this, but I wanted to really talk about something that's happening this time of year. It's interesting because, as this podcast gets released, we're already halfway through the month.
I know.
Of January.
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah, it's January 10th.
That's insane.
I'm actually really happy about that.
Yeah, why is that?
I feel like January and February, they're always the slow riding months.
Yeah, and you think that we're going fast? So
I love that if we're going fast.
Yeah. So we'll be through it real quick.
Exactly. Spring is upon us.
And that pretty soon?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say then summer, right?
And then summer.
There it is.
No, it's summer all year long.
That's right.
Open House, the podcast.
Or anywhere you get your summers. I don't know. But, it's interesting because one of the conversations I'm having with agents and a lot of folks already, and something that we've actually had a conversation of, a lot of people went and they've set all the goals. Now, we already know this, guys, right? We already know if you've set your goal, chances are, as of right now, the 10th of January, I think the 15th when this episode hits, podcast platforms, you've probably either already forgotten about them and or you haven't done anything to start achieving the goal.
Yep. Or you've already made a bunch of excuses as to why
you can't do it. Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And
so funny.
It's just a human thing because even I've done that.
Yeah.
So far,
you're only 10 days in.
I know.
But it's crazy, isn't it? We get all really motivated to do something and we write it down. And then one of the biggest traps that people get themselves in, and this is why I want to talk a little bit about goal setting too. This isn't the cognitive stuff yet. But one of the reasons why whenever I do a goal planning clinic, and you've been through me with a couple of these that I've done.
Yeah. One
of the key issues that I try to get through to people is don't just set a monetary goal. Monetary is secondary, right? Because if I gave you $100,000, if I just gave you a stack of $100,000, that might sound great.
Yeah.
But if you just let it sit in the side of your, in a cabinet somewhere, if it's sitting in the side of the home, it's not doing anything.
Yeah, it's just sitting there.
It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
You're going to use it for something, right? What is that something that you're going to use it for?
Mm-hmm.
When I do business planning clinics with folks, the number one thing that I ask them is, if you were to look back, right? Like if you were to close your eyes and imagine it's the end of 2025, and you're able to say, man, this was the best year ever. I feel like this. I was able to accomplish this. I was able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
People say this about me. This is my stat. Like, what is it? If you can picture or imagine that, what does that look like if you were successful? And the reason I start with that is because the money isn't the thing.
Right.
Money is a means to a thing. It isn't the thing.
Yep.
Again, if you think that money's the thing, then get yourself a bunch of money, set it in a corner and stare at it. It doesn't do you any good doing it that way. It's just like when realtors, trying to get them to understand, like people don't want to move. They want what moving gives them.
Yeah.
It's a core driving emotion.
The core drive emotion.
So what is it that money can do for you as a tool in 2025, right? Whether it's getting a new place, paying off your car, getting away from Jeeps, whatever it is.
I love Jeeps, first of all.
Hey, we'll start a Jeep war later. I'm sure people out there will jump on that. Like, It's not that Jeeps are bad, right? It's not that they're bad. It's just that they don't make sense.
It's one of those
economically.
It's a core driving emotion. No, I'm just kidding.
A Jeep.
I'm just kidding.
I just want somebody to give me a duck. I can only do it. And do you do the peace thing? Are you allowed to do the peace thing?
I don't think I'm allowed. I drive a Grand Cherokee.
Yeah, it's not allowed.
I think
That's not a real Jeep.
I think it has to be a boxy Jeep,
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
Wrangler,
yeah.
you know, the old Liberties or whatever. So I drove a Liberty.
Yeah.
And I would do it, but nobody ever did the piece to me.
Yeah.
I think it's just a Wrangler thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I think that.
But I thought it was all
true
boxy
Jeep.
Jeeps. Yeah, mine's not.
No. Well, we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the bias behind
Drive a
that
fake
later.
Jeep.
You do drive a fake Jeep. So anyway, the point is there's things that money can do for you. And so what you want to do, so what the average person does is they're going to set goals.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to say, I want to make this much money next year. Why? I have a couple loose ideas. I'd like to go on vacation. I'd like to pay this off. I'd like to move. I'd like to hire, whatever, somebody come through and clean my house once a week.
Yeah, because money is necessary for all of those things.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a comedian, Daniel Tosh, one time was talking about money, and he said, people say that money doesn't bring happiness. However, I've never seen a sad person on a ski-doo.
Yeah. Or a sad person on a yacht.
Yeah. I'm sure there is.
I'm sure
there's some
there
guy
is,
just sitting on the yacht being like,
I'm sure you could just look up at the sun and find a little bit of happiness.
You'd hope. Well, but see, and it is true because happiness is also happiness also comes through content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, there is a thing to being said about the millionaire that's sitting on the yacht looking up and then he's alone out there and nobody, blah, blah, blah. But still, the point is, it's having the goal. And then here's the thing where people fail the most.
Mm-hmm.
They put it as a goal and they don't realize what they've done is really just created a dream. So they say they want to go out and do this thing, but then they never take the time to say, okay, cool. You want to go to Germany for vacation? Whereabouts in Germany do you want to go this year?
Right.
What is it going to cost? What our airline? They don't take the steps. The reason that I believe most people don't actually take that next step, and if you've been coaching with me, sorry to spoil your bubble here because I'm gonna out you right now. It's because you actually have a doubt that you're not going to do it. Because once you start planning on it, if you want to drive a new car this year, go out and meet the salesperson that's going to sell the car to you. Mm-hmm. Start taking it for a test drive. Feel what the leather feels like. Start putting a plan in place. Right. You want to go to a destination? Get yourself a travel agent. Hey, I'm going to 8 months is my plan to do this.
Right. So you start with the dream.
You start with it.
You start with the dream. You got to have a dream to, create then goals to achieve, that dream. But, goals are so funny because it's like you have one big dream, you have one big goal. But the thing about it is you have to make all these tiny little goals.
Yeah.
Your daily goals, to achieve that end of the year, 2025.
Or who you wanted to be or what you wanted to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you want to go from just it being in your head as something that you'd like to do to something that you feel like you're going to do,
right?
Then start doing the thing, right? Like I said, start getting yourself in there. And then the other thing, know exactly what that thing is going to cost at the end of the day. You might not need 100,000. You might need more than 100,000. Worst case scenario, you make $100,000 this year to realize I wasn't able to fund anything that I wanted to, and I worked my butt off to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So you definitely want to make sure that you do that. And so what a lot of the conversations I'm having with folks right now and people that I'm coaching is one, aligning between the dream and a goal and actually setting it and turning it into a goal. Because other words, what a lot of folks have done, and we've done this, I've done this in the past, is you run into the new year, mm-hmm. you think there's going to be some magic bullet, mm-hmm. you wake up the second, because nobody wakes up the first, and then it's the same old. You're still running the same routine. You're in the same rut that you were, and it wasn't necessarily the magic bullet that you thought it could be. However, wow, I like that. However, you can play a trick with yourself to turn this into the magic bullet if you now start to do the work. The reason that most people fail within the first 2 weeks of New Year's to start even achieving their goal is because it was never a true goal. There was nothing there to hold them accountable. They just, I'm going to do this with no plan whatsoever.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. And then it is. It just, you feel like you're just the same chaotic person you were December 31st.
And here's what happens, because today we're going to be talking about something called cognitive biases.
Okay.
Ooh, fun.
Ooh.
Brain stuff today. Okay. What happens is your brain will agree with you. So when you wake up and you have the thought, you know what, nothing's going to change. This is just going to be another year like I had before. Guess what your brain does? You're right. Because your brain wants to prove your thought right.
Right.
So what it will do
that only makes sense.
Oh, of course, it's your brain.
It's your brain.
Most people don't realize that they run their own brain. It's the weirdest thing. Right. Like you just think that your brain's running around doing things for you. No, you run your own brain. You get to control your thoughts. You get to control how you react to things. However, a lot of us don't realize that we run off of these cognitive biases. Therefore, our brain is set up to automatically run through programs or to automatically do things in a certain way to save us, I guess, data power from having to figure things out. And realistically, the brain, the more I study it, the more I start to realize that our cognitive brain, the brain that like you're aware, right?
Yeah.
It's the smaller part. Your subconscious is the larger part.
You know, that makes a lot of sense too. I feel like I just know, like, you know, your subconscious brain, when you think of things randomly and it's because you literally just heard it like 10 minutes ago and you're like, well, wait, that's the most random thing.
Yeah.
It's not. Your subconscious is really interesting.
Here's the crazy part about that.
Yeah.
What you just mentioned is, I love that you mentioned this because we've talked about this when it comes to music. I'm a big, be careful what you put into your head type of person.
Yeah.
And did you watch the Michael Jackson video I sent you? Did you see that?
I don't remember.
I sent you a video on TikTok. Michael Jackson was talking to somebody and he was
I watched it. Okay, I watched it.
And he's head on, and that's something that I've always told people.
Yeah, that video was very interesting.
So in this video, Michael Jackson is talking about what people are saying and what kids are singing. And what ends up happening is if you say and repeat the same thing over and over again, guess what? It becomes a mantra. And what will happen is that you will start to, if you wake up every day and you say, I feel like garbage today, it's just another day gone down the tubes, right? How many people have had that thought before? If that's your first thought, you don't check that and you don't try to change that, guess what? Your subconscious mind will align with that. And it will say, it sure is a crappy day. You woke up late. The dog is whining. You didn't get a chance to, and then all of a sudden you start feeling crappy about yourself.
Yeah.
Then what happens? You have a day that ensues. And of course it was a crappy day. Why do most people expect Mondays to be a garbage day?
Because their weekend's over and it's the first day of the new week. They have a whole bunch of stuff to do.
And what does society say about Mondays?
I don't know.
Society literally calls Mondays Mondays. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting study.
What?
Shows that more people are depressed on a Tuesday than a Monday. Forbes actually had shown that sales, the reason that most sales organizations and top 500 companies have their sales meetings on Tuesdays is because sales as a whole is down on Tuesdays because it's been noted as one of the most depressing days.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing about us as a culture is we've turned Monday into just saying Monday is depressing to some people.
Yeah.
They say, oh, it just must be a Monday.
Yeah.
Or on a Thursday, if you're having a bad day, what do you do? You say it's a case of the
Mondays. Yeah.
We have literally as a culture turned Monday into...
You're so right. Even like, a day that's going by slow, it could be Friday. You're like, man, it feels like a Monday today.
Yeah.
Like Monday, it's like a derogatory or like bad term, you know?
Yeah. Like Monday is the worst term you can do.
Like you're such a Monday.
Yeah.
That's a bit offensive. Anybody called me a Monday.
Well, it's kind of like back in the English, I don't know. This is back in the English days. And apologize for any of the old English people that are listening from the 1600s. But they used to say good day to you. It was like telling you to go F off.
Good day.
Yeah, they'd be like, good day, sir. And he'd be like, good day to you. No, good day to you and your mom. I'm like, okay.
It's so rude.
Yeah. It's so rude to say good day. So like saying happy Monday to somebody is like, oh, Monday to you too.
You're right. Yeah.
But it's interesting because what we have done, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's interesting that you said for sales Tuesday.
Yeah.
So are you saying like sales only?
No, so I can tell you what happens is if you look across, and the theory behind this is Monday is the day after the weekend. So everybody has stuff to catch up on and do, even though we've given Monday a bad rap. And realistically, a lot of that even goes back to a movie. Oh, it's interesting. It's interesting in our culture how much we have always, as humans in civilization, we have pulled stuff from media, books, and now movies and TV. And those things become part of who we are and part of our culture.
Right.
So you got a smile on your face. Does that indicate somebody saying something about Mondays?
No, nobody said anything. I actually forgot that we still had the TV on here.
Yeah. It's
and I was just looking at her.
Instead of our logo, it's just playing the episode with Jason Courtney of
Partners. So shout out. There's Jason Courtney again. Hey, Jason. We were going to try to put our logo on the TV, but we've settled.
We just decided to put ourselves up there instead. It looks good.
We look good.
We just decided to play this episode, name the camera at it, and that was today's episode. I like it. But it's interesting because, for instance, here's a fun one.
Yeah.
Do you know where the word slut comes from?
I mean, I think I do.
Well, let's pretend that you don't.
Okay.
Because it was never a derogatory term.
Okay.
It used to mean a little like, it was the term meant... Shock and awe. The term meant dust ball. Like it was the little dust balls that are on the floor.
Like a little fuzz ball.
That collect in the corner.
There's a slut in the corner.
That was it.
That's crazy.
Hello.
That's wild.
In the 1800s, late 1800s, an author came around and said, oh, that's a really good way to describe this woman that he was writing about. And ever since then, it caught on. And that's kind of how we do language, just like the Mondays thing.
So it was, I just need to know, it was actually a writer writing about a woman.
Yeah.
And he decided to use that word
to describe what we now would consider, slutty women.
It's an interesting fact.
It makes sense.
Let's just make a point that there's slutty men as well.
Not back in the 1800s. Not when this guy wrote the book. You weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah. They were bigger. Probably sluts than the woman. Yeah, I would think.
Are we still talking about desk corners?
Yes.
Okay, good. I figured. Yeah, no,
we couldn't talk about that.
Men were super dirty back then. It was just a different time. Nobody washed their hands. There's diseases everywhere. Mm-hmm. There was the rise and fall of Charlie and his chocolate factory. I don't know what's happening. But the fact is it's we adapt these things and we're like, okay, cool. We're going to take these on, and now this is this, right? Again. So Monday, the theory behind the whole weekend is the weekend comes. Monday is when you have a lot going on. It's not as depressing as what people think. But Tuesday is the blah day of the week.
I agree.
Because Wednesday's hump day. You're halfway through the week. Mm-hmm. Thursday's right before Friday.
I know.
Productivity goes up, and so does energy. The more you get towards the weekend, the more energy goes up.
Yep.
That starts on a Wednesday. Thursday, you're trying to get everything done because you want it done by Friday, so you don't have to really work as hard for the weekend.
Yeah, Thursday is basically just pre-Friday.
Thursday is pre-Friday. And then you have Friday, and then you have the weekend. Saturday,
Sunday, yep.
Right? Then you have Monday to make up for. So when you again, there's the theory behind it is that Tuesday is just a lull day, and because it is, there's just not as much activity out there, and this is why. Again, even our meetings are on Tuesdays. But if you ever asked why do the majority of company meetings happen on Tuesdays, it's because it's one of the best training days that's out there because business doesn't happen as much on Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to maximize the effort. Anyway, all that to say, what we put in is what comes out. And so, again, when it comes to those mantras, every single day when you wake up, if you are not reminding yourself, and this is good going back to what you're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. My word is conquer. In fact, in my pocket, I need your help with this today, by the way. I have a bracelet that says to conquer oneself is to conquer the world.
Oh, did it break or something?
I can't figure out how to get it to
We'll
clasp.
get it clasped.
But see, that's the type of thing. Like every morning now when I wake up, I yell the word conquer, and I say, you will conquer today. You will conquer yourself. This is my mantra every morning. And how energized was I today? Like,
no, you were.
I'm ready to conquer today. I'm in it.
Johnny's in a little bit of pain.
I'm in a lot of pain.
A lot.
I broke my back. You can't tell.
Yeah, his back's hurting, and it's been a rough week. But he did this morning. He's just been like,
I was out. I was moving stuff I shouldn't have been moving. We couldn't get the podcast running, but it happened anyway because we're going to. I try to help
as much as I can.
She does. She's just great, guys. She lifted me up and carried me and put me in this chair.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to use the bathroom, and I don't know. It's got weird.
I think you're on your own, buddy.
I was my brain was thinking you'd roll me that way, and then as I was saying it, I'm like, this isn't right. It is what it is, guys. Welcome to Open House the podcast. So let's talk a little bit about the fascinating world of cognitive biases. So this is interesting because I pulled this up. And I did not know this. There is over 180 identified biases. Okay. That means that when our brain is going through things, the easiest way, I'll tell you a story. Let me tell you a story about cognitive bias. So this is what's known as situational bias. So let's say that you're driving down the road in your expensive, unneeded Jeep. And what ends up happening is somebody cuts you off and they're going really, really fast and they blow through a red light and you're just like annoyed, right?
Yeah.
Like, what a jerk, right? Like
road rage.
Yeah, instant.
Okay? Yeah.
All right. That happens to everybody. Now, let's change the situation. Let's say that light he blew through, he turns right on a red light, blows past you. However, you now happen to be near a hospital. And that light that he blew through takes him into the hospital. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think?
Oh my gosh, it's an emergency.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That.
Like I'm so sorry. I'll get out of your way.
That is situational cognitive bias.
I see.
Based on the situation. Now, what if it was the same guy? He just hadn't made it to the hospital yet in the first scenario. Mm-hmm. And you're all mad at him and upset, but the dude's trying to get his wife to the emergency room because she's in labor right now.
Yep.
We're all mad at that guy, but if we happen to be in front of the hospital, oh, he must have an emergency.
Right.
But what if the guy that was running into the hospital didn't have an emergency? He was just a doctor running late and he was just driving like an idiot, whereas the idiot that you thought before was the guy that actually had the emergency. Do you see how our brains can trick us? Mm-hmm. And the crazy part is depending on what we do with that information, like now we have a choice on what we want to do.
Yeah.
My favorite story, and this is one of my favorite stories when it comes to cognitive bias, and especially when it comes to situational awareness, is the story of the two boys on the train. I know you've heard this because you've been in my trainings before.
Yeah, it's a great story.
But there's two boys playing on this train in subway in New York, and they're very rambunctious. They're running into other people. Their dad is just seemingly sitting behind a newspaper, reading it, just letting them go on. And they're being loud and annoying, and they're bumping into each other. And this man is just watching this. He's sitting across from this father. He's watching this unfold, and he's thinking to himself, man, why is this guy just letting his kids do whatever? Why isn't he getting them under control?
Right. And
they bump into him, and you know, he's getting kind of annoyed, and one of the kids steps on his toes, and he's like, he's like trying to make noise to be like, do something about your kids. And then finally, after about 30 minutes of this, one of the kids bumps into this man so much so they spill some coffee. Now he's irate. He looks at the man holding the newspaper and says, hey, why don't you do something about these kids? They're going crazy on here. Get them under control. And as the man pulls the newspaper down, you can see that he has tears streaming from his eyes. And he says, I'm so sorry. These boys, they just lost their mother, my wife. And I guess I don't know how to handle it, and neither do they.
Right.
To which the businessman instantly goes, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do? See, there's a bias that he had that made him shortcut the entire process of how can I actually process this information? This goes back to, I'm just going to claim Monday as being a bad day. Well, no. What you need to do, and especially as entrepreneurs in business, whenever we have something, we need to check these biases sometimes. And we really should check them most of the time. And I have a couple of hacks on how to get through this. But the reason that is so important is because remember when we were all laughing, I said most of us don't know that we're in control of our own mind. Mm-hmm. We let our mind wander and do all these other things, but we don't wind it in. We have these crazy extreme thoughts. Nobody, listen to this, especially for realtors. All these leads suck.
Yeah.
Nobody answers the phone. That's an absolute. Really? Nobody answers the phone? Somebody's going to answer the phone. Well, I had one person. Okay. So then you had one.
So somebody answered the phone.
Have you called 100 people yet? Right? Mm-hmm. No. Okay. Until you've called 100 people and you're in a business where you get 2% response rate back.
Yeah.
You don't have a right to say nobody answers the phone yet.
Yep. You have to work it. There. Yeah. You have to work it.
And that is one of those checks and balances, because then what ends up happening is this. Nobody answers the phone. Then what do we get from there? Prospecting sucks, right? I don't like doing this.
Yeah, from there, I mean, all the excitement that you had that, wow, I'm going to prospect and going to get leads and I'm going to work really hard. You're now literally going down, 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 and you're coming up with it's cognitive biases.
Yes, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, look at me learning.
Because your brain wants to shortcut the situation. Here's the truth. To really sit and think about something, it takes a second, right? We really have to think and work ourselves
dial
through it.
in. Yep.
So what a lot of people do, they don't want to take the time to do that, especially entrepreneurs. Do you know how many times I've recommended to an entrepreneur? Oh man, side note. That was good. Have you ever done a one of those salt beds where they close the cover on top of you? I'm forgetting the name. If you guys know the names, shoot the name out. It is a isolation chamber. Have you ever done an isolation chamber? Mm-hmm. Do you know what this is? Okay. Fun stuff. So an isolation chamber is something, especially when it comes to mega agents, people that have a couple of people on their team, usually they're a $30 to $50 million plus producer. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of stuff going on. They don't take the time to think, especially the high Ds. High Ds, you guys are the worst at this. We're just going to travel forward and we're just going to knock every door down and we're just going to get to our goal. Mm-hmm. The problem is you didn't take the time to slow down to just let your mind think. And then high Ds, they're the ones that get the most stressed and the most frustrated. When they get frustrated, then they blow stuff up, or this is when holes go in the wall, or both internally and sometimes externally. Mm-hmm. That's because they didn't take the time to just think. So here's what an isolation chamber is. An isolation chamber, and they have these all throughout here, and I know they've got them wherever anybody's listening. It's essentially a bathtub, futuristic looking bathtub that is filled with water that is the same temperature as your body.
I've seen videos, I think, of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's filled with salt, so you don't sink. You are literally floating. And because it's the same temperature as your body, you don't feel the water. All you feel is float. And then what they do is they put a dark cover over top of it, and all the lights go out, and it's pitch black, and your eyes are open, but it's like as if you're sleeping. And here's what happens. Because your brain isn't feeling anything, your mind has nothing to focus on. There's nothing to see.
Just like blink.
There's no stimulus.
Yeah, it's probably dark in there.
You can't see a thing.
Like if you open your eyes, it's like your eyes are closed.
You should have your eyes open. It is like your eyes are closed. In fact, after like an hour,
you probably don't even know that.
You don't know if you have your eyes open or closed.
You're like, what even is an eye?
What is an eye? Yeah.
I don't know why.
I will tell you that I've done it before, and I think it's a necessity for some folks.
Yeah, it sounds like when you get that, peace and quiet moment, it's almost like when people cold plunge, like
kinda.
But it's like all you do is like focus. It's just so much focus.
So it's actually kind of the reverse. What happens when your brain doesn't have anything to focus on is it starts to think. And most people don't take themselves to a place of silence where they can just lay there. I can't do it myself.
I can't. I'd probably start seeing like pictures in my mind.
This happens in the isolation chamber.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people. If you especially your imagination. I had hallucinations while I was in there. After an hour, or 30 minutes, you're just laying in there with your brain nothing.
Scary. So could somebody who like has like a claustrophobia or like doesn't like to be in tight spaces, could they do something like this?
Of course, it would be a great way for them to get over the claustrophobia because
it's dark.
Well, no, because you're forcing yourself to do something to see that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So here's a fun thing. We were talking about this the other day too. And for those of you that are new audience, one of the things that I study the most is psychology and hypnosis, NLP, and the mind, and psychology.
Yeah, he hypnotized me the other night.
Very minimal. That was just a suggestibility test. But it's interesting because one of the things that people don't realize is how the brain functions. And right now, I'm trying to pull that thought back of what we were talking about on that night. What were we talking about? I was talking about the person that has something. Okay. Do you remember why? Remember that night that I did the test on you?
You did a test, and I remember the first thing you said was, "Oh, well, you're easily hypnotized," and I was like, "Excuse me, sir."
Suggestible.
Like, excuse me.
So we're going down a really crazy.
No, I think it's because I don't know. Suggestive something?
Yeah, there was there was a suggestibility thing that I was going to talk about, and then I lost it. Oh, look at you.
Mic down.
The point is that the way that we look at the world and the way that we look at things. Yeah. I love this. I forgot to set her mic up properly, so now it's falling.
I set it up on my own today.
You did,
guys.
Good. Yeah, good job. That was fun. That was fast. But the how we process information and then what we do with it is really important. I had this really good example and I've completely lost it, so I'm just going to move on from there.
Sorry, I distracted you with this microphone.
It wasn't you. It was the ADD catching up. The 4 types of biases. All right, that are major biases that people have are memory, decision making, social, and attention.
Okay.
So let's go into memory bias for a second, because this is really cool too. And we got a couple different things that you can do with this, but I love memory. Memory bias, here's the definition of it: distorts how we recall past events. Mm-hmm. For example, hindsight bias makes us believe we knew it all along. It's so easy for us to say, I knew that was going to happen after the fact, right? And the availability, and then there's another part of it on the exact opposite end of it, which is the availability heuristic, which makes memory events seem more likely. So here's what that means.
I've heard of that. Actually, I feel like I've even seen movies of stuff like that. The memory
is a very interesting thing. Yes. Memory bias is extremely interesting.
Yeah, because I've heard that you could quite literally create a memory in your mind and think that it actually happened to you.
So have you ever heard the story of the little girl that broke her arm?
No.
No? All right.
I don't know. I don't think
so. There was once a little girl and she broke her arm.
Wow, what a story.
Good. Yeah. No. So they did a psychological test, and there's this one test that they ran on kids, and this one girl in particular, she had never broken anything in her life, but they told her that she had broken her arm. For 6 months, she said, I never broke my arm. That never happened. But they continued to tell her, yes, yeah, you broke your arm. 6 months later, so 6 months she denied it, but after another 6 month period of time, so within a year, not only did she believe that she had broken her arm, she had a story on how she broke her arm, and she could actually feel pain where her arm had, quote unquote, once been broken, even though it never happened. Mm. So what we do a lot is, and we got to be really careful about this, is when we think that we have a memory about something, and you know what, as entrepreneurs, we do this all the time. How many people did you phone call yesterday? 180? Okay, well, let's look at the record.
Yeah.
Oh, it was 18. What? I feel like I prospected for 7 hours yesterday and I contacted 3,000 people. No, that's memory bias. Your brain wants you to think that you did more than what you actually did. Mm-hmm. So when we go back to take a look at it, did you get shorter?
I did.
Okay.
Okay. So the microphone thing, let me just tell you guys, my mic's getting a little wobbly over here. So I just literally moved my whole body down to go to the mic.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just noticed. Like you just
I didn't know what to do.
Do you want to switch mics real quick?
No, I'm good now.
Live shows. You got to, I do
feel a bit short.
This is a great opportunity to tell you that if you only listen to the podcast, you definitely should catch us live.
Yeah, it's fun.
Because 1, you get to watch it. 2, there's so much extra things that happen. It's a good time.
It's a great time.
But when it comes to entrepreneurs, especially, or another example that was like, you knew, let's just say you list a home during the holiday.
Yeah.
You have an open house and then nobody shows up. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you're going to say to yourself, I knew if I listed this open house during the holiday, nobody was going to show up.
Yeah.
But if you went a day before, you were thinking, this is probably a really good opportunity. If anybody shows up, they're going to really want to buy this house. So our memory bias actually changed and then changed our attitude. And then all of a sudden we'd say that we knew that it was going to happen this way, when we didn't know that in the first place, and we actually had a different thought process. And here's the danger of that. The danger of that is then, again, your mind wants to pull out whatever you're telling your mind to pull up. Mm-hmm. I knew this wasn't going to work. okay, you're right. Yep, you're right. And here's why. Here's all the reasoning behind it to show that you were correct.
Yeah. I don't know if this word is going to be correct, but it's almost like you're quite literally manifesting what you're about to do or what is about to happen.
Yes, 100%. Yes. Manifestation is a very interesting thing because now I'm not a name it and claim it person.
Yeah.
Neither is Tony. I'm with Tony Robbins on that. If somebody wants to go out to your garden and you want to yell at the weeds, there is no weeds, there is no weeds, there is no weeds. I picture no weeds. There's going to be weeds. You got to do something.
Yeah.
However, like Gary Keller says, what you focus on expands. If you set your mindset, it's the same thing that happens. Here's another bias. If you bought a new Jeep, how many times when you were out on the road with that new Jeep, how many of those types of Jeeps did you see after you just bought that Jeep?
Yeah, all of a sudden, I'm like, everybody.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone has one.
Everybody has the same Jeep.
Everyone has the same Jeep. Even when the Cybertrucks came out, it's funny because people are like, oh, there's one Cybertruck that person driving around. There's probably a bunch of them. And that Cybertruck guy knew who all of them were, right? So that's kind of that our brains trick us into thinking. It's fun, isn't it? I want that one up there forever. But our brains, it tricks us, right, into believing different things in order to support the beliefs that we are really having at our core.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why it's important, again, to slow down, to think, and to unwind some of those thoughts and ask yourself, how is this thought serving me? And when it comes back to, okay, I have a goal. Let's go back to New Year's goals. I want to conquer today. If I have a thought of, oh, this isn't going to work, or prospecting isn't going to work today, or the system's broke, I just screw it all.
Right.
Am I living up to what I wanted for today? No. But if I can remember, okay, this is one thing. How can I continue to conquer today? You're not going to.
So that's one of your
computer
tools.
Just turned on.
Nice.
Right when I said I was going to conquer the day, the computer that hasn't worked the whole day.
Of course.
On.
So that's what you were talking about when you said those. Is that like a tool that you could use to overcome the memory cognitive bias?
Do you want to hear something real fun?
To catch it in the beginning? I do.
Okay. Have you ever heard me talk about the story of the ant and the elephant?
I don't know.
Okay. So the ant and the elephant is a fantastic story. It's a book. We should read it. I definitely recommend it to the audience members. But Ant and the Elephant is a story about an ant that wants to go where it's warmer. And he knows that it's warmer the further south that you go.
Mm-hmm.
So one day he decides to leave his community and he says, I'm going to go where it's warm because it's starting to get cold and you guys are just fine with it. I'm not fine with it. I'm going where it's warm.
Mm-hmm.
And the book explores this ant who continues to walk south, and he's on all these adventures. And then the strangest thing happens. The more south he walks, the more cold it gets, which isn't right. And then one day he gets to the furthest point north that he thinks he can get to because he can now see the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when he turns around, he looks and he sees this big brown eyeball staring at him. And what he realizes is that his entire life has been spent living on the back of an elephant. And he never realized it. Now, here's the crazy thing. Even though the ant wants to go south where it's going to be warmer, and he is moving that way himself physically, the small little ant, if the elephant is going north, the ant's never going to get there.
Poor ant.
That's the poor ant.
Poor guy.
That is how your brain works.
Yeah.
Your subconscious mind has more neurons firing in it than our conscious mind.
Mm-hmm. You
think that you're paying attention, but while you're doing this, you're breathing, you're working on a laptop, you got stuff happening in the background. People are driving right now, you know, whatever they're doing while they're listening as well. Our subconscious is taking everything in and filtering it out. Our conscious is only paying attention to a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And the bias is really there to help us to pick those pieces out. And really it should be aiding us, but sometimes it doesn't. It has a negative effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that's important is what you have to do is be able to get your subconscious mind to align with where your conscious mind wants to go. And a lot of times they fight against each other. Why? Because you've been more negative with yourself and what you've put in than positive, and therefore your subconscious mind is taking its marching orders. Or I'm going this way. This is where those people, and I've heard this, I've done all the things.
All the things.
I've done all the things, but I seem to be going backwards and I'm never getting forward.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a look at that.
Like, let's really break it down.
Let's really take a look at what's going on.
Because something's not going correctly.
You don't put any positivity into your mind whatsoever. You watch The View every single day. Whoopee Goldberg is the only tweets that you listen to.
It's very, very true.
Of course, you think the whole world's going to go down?
Yeah.
Do you realize that for every situation you think that you're in that you can't overcome, somebody out there has overcome that situation, become successful?
Mm-hmm.
You just have to find those examples and then model after them.
Yeah.
It's just like I always tell people in business planning clinic, math doesn't lie. If you have the plan to follow, it's going to work.
Right. So I would say, like, if you start, literally consciously being aware that you are kind of tunneling and going down this negative, like that first instinct, you go to the office, it's 10 a.m., you called for like an hour
or two,
or you've been working, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to be here. But I think the key thing is that you identify that moment and then you kind of stop yourself, as you said. And, maybe you don't have a chamber to go in, but,
maybe it's a bathroom. You can sit. Listen,
that's what I was going to say is maybe you just quite literally need a second with yourself so that you can process these thoughts instead of like just try to ignore it, sweep it to the side and keep going, because you are going to be miserable doing what you're doing then the rest of the day, unless you pull yourself out of it. And we actually talked about this on the last episode, maybe the one before that, but you quite literally choose.
You choose.
You choose because you are in control of your own brain.
Yeah, somewhat. Are you in control of your brain, or is your brain in control of you?
Your brain is trying to control you. Take the control back.
Control your brainy. You have a choice at the end of the day.
Yeah, like take that moment. What works for you. Some people need a second. They count. They do the ABCs, or maybe you just want to listen to a song, or make a phone call or something. Just do that. Find out what works for you. What's your coping for that moment to get you. The rest of the day is strong. And, maybe the rest of the day isn't strong. Maybe you just had a bad day.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
And you can recognize that. But as long as you recognize on the worst day, and it's funny because I have I don't know how to say this, but I've seen video clips of this coming out. But it was my pastor that told me this. So I'll reclaim it for our own video clips.
Yes.
But, I had a pastor once told me that people talk about life in seasons, but to him, life was more like a train track, right? Everything that good is happening to you happens out the left-hand side of the window. Everything bad happens out the right side. And on the worst day of your life, there was good that happened to you that day. More so on the best day of your life, there was bad things that happened that day. The thing that's interesting is when we're having a great day and something bad happens, we brush it off like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Yet if we're having a piss poor day and something good happens, we brush it off like it's nothing.
You don't even care because you've already chose that you're having a bad day.
Now, the power comes in saying, I've made this decision. 1, how does it serve me? 2, do I want to stay there? And if you're one of those people, and there are people, for whatever reason, it's part of they just have to sit in it for a second.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I actually think I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
If I'm having a bad day, I can't swipe it to the side because I just really can't. Sometimes I have to just but sometimes, sometimes it's more tough is what I'm trying to say.
And
because you are decision. Right.
It's like exercise.
Yeah, it is. But, I am someone where that's why I said kind of take a second to yourself, because I am someone where it's like, I just need to sit and I need to like go over what's going on in my head. And either I can pull myself out or I can't.
But you gotta understand in that second when you can't, that you're choosing not to.
Exactly.
And that's the scary part, because you have the choice. Listen, what NLP is neurological linguistics, right? Meaning how you move, what you say, what you do also impacts your body. If you put yourself, oh boy.
There's that back.
There's that back.
Be careful of yourself. Your body is a temple.
If you put yourself in a Superman pose, because most of the time when people are upset or sad or you're having a bad day, you're hunched over. You look like you're dead, right? You start injecting some energy into that though, and you get the choice whether or not you want to do that.
Yeah.
You move around, you start talking with confidence, you start moving a little bit faster, you're going to jump yourself out of that.
Yeah, and I think that's why, to each their own, like I said, each person has their own thing, and even the example I gave, you know, when I can't, I think I need to really find what is it for me. And that's something that I should explore a bit more. And
you need an isolation chamber.
Right.
Sitting there and just think, what do I need?
Yeah, no, but I'm huge on things like that and identifying like behavioral or anything. The second like that cycle starts, and if you can master that, like it's amazing.
Well, of course, because then you become truly not only aware, but here's the better part: you can then influence other people as well.
Yeah, you're like fully in control.
You're fully in control at that point in time. Is it difficult for everybody? Absolutely.
100%.
It's one, again, when you wake up in the morning, you have the decision, am I going to drink water first thing when I get up or coffee? Right? Well, I don't know. That's a horrible example. Am I going to have
really bad example?
Or here's a better one.
Or
donuts are free at the office, but I could stop after the office and get myself a fruit parlay. I don't know, something healthier than a donut. What are most people going to choose, though? Because it's easier for them to reach out. The donuts were already provided. I'm just going to grab a donut.
Yeah.
Well, then your brain is crappy, right? By the way, TLs and leaders of teams, don't take offense to this, but donuts and bagels are the worst thing to feed your team before a meeting because it slows the cognitive brain processes down. You feel like garbage. Everybody's carb crashing, and then you want to teach them something or have an hour-long meeting. Start giving them fruit and energy drinks instead.
Fruit and energy drinks.
The energy drink is also a hack.
Every agent's office meeting, if there's fruit and
strawberries and Red Bull, it's all I need. No, the Red Bull really is, that's a crutch too. I get it. It is what it is. Here's the hack. Let's move on here's the hack for memory bias. Rely less on your memory and more on actual fact. And how can you get fact? Guys, one of the worst things that, one of the things that entrepreneurs are the worst at is actually keeping track of things. That's what they're the worst at. I love that you're watching us up there.
Our Christmas.
Yes, our Christmas special is now airing. Special. But if you were to track everything and write it down, now you get a chance to look back. Let's go back to the person that thought that they were going to have a great open house, and after it was done, they said, "I knew it was going to be garbage."
Yeah.
If they would have written that down in a journal, I'm excited for the open house today. They can go back and go, well, I guess this doesn't align.
Yeah.
Oh, I must be having a memory bias issue here. How is this serving me? Because in reality, sometimes it serves you because if you just want to be down in the dirt, okay, great. It's serving you that purpose for you. But if you don't want to be stuck there, now all of a sudden you could say, it wasn't like that. The next time I've learned.
Yeah. Maybe you could like actually create that journal like the night before or something and plan your day. Like tomorrow, you know, you're going to have an open house and you write tomorrow's going to be a great open house. This is why.
Yep.
After the open house, it's going to be great. And this is why.
Everything's great. Everything is awesome.
Yeah. And then, and then after that open house, you're like, oh, well, this wasn't good at all. And then you look back in your journal and you're like, wow, I was very optimistic 8 hours ago.
Right. Correct. So you can't say, I knew, this is the whole thing. You can't say, I knew this was going to suck.
Yeah.
No, you didn't know that. Because 8 hours ago, you're ready for it. And now you get to say, all right, nobody showed up. What could I have done during this open house?
Yeah.
Open houses are a great example because most agents will just go and they'll sit there and wait for people to come through. You know, and then that same agent will complain that they don't have the time to do any social media whatsoever.
Yeah, like what are you doing the whole time?
Like you were there for 3 hours. Pull your camera out and say hello.
Yeah.
Do a online open house, like an Instagram live walkthrough with the open house. If people come in, be like, "You're on Instagram Live."
I was gonna say, funny side note. When I first started making like TikToks, like I created my own little TikTok account, and I tried to post a lot of real estate related, funny, TikToks. It all began at an open house. That I had not one single person come through, but the whole time, there was a couple times I was like, well, shoot, I hope nobody walks in right now. I'm like on the floor shooting a video, but
what?
I really,
what video what are you shooting?
Well, go look at my TikTok, guys.
All right,
and
you'll see.
Go. No, but that's how it started.
Welcome to the open house. As you'll see, these floors are so fluffy. Who knew shag carpet was going to be so comfortable?
Yeah. But it was either that, like I was bored. out of my mind. I was like, what can I do? And then I was like, I've been wanting to make videos. Why not make videos?
That's it. Do something more with the time. Yeah.
And I ended up making like a good amount of videos. It was cool.
Oh, this is great. There's something called an anchoring technique. Okay. So the other bias is decision-making bias. Decision-making bias affects how we make choices. And anchoring is a really interesting thing too. Oh, there's so much to talk about. And I don't think we're going to get through any of these. Anchoring happens when we rely too much on the first piece of information, which is the anchor, and we lose the other things that makes us fear losses more than value and equivalent gains. Okay, here's what this means. This is really interesting. If I said to you, if we went to a premium restaurant somewhere and somebody pulled out a bottle of water, and I said something along the lines of, this premium bottle of water looks like it's worth about $20. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I were to ask you, well, how much do you think this bottle of water is? What would you say? We're at a table, pretend we're out there. Here comes a bottle of water. Person drops it off.
And you say it looks like.
I told you, I said it looks like it's worth about, like, this is like a $20 bottle of water.
You're like, wow, it's nice water.
Well, how much do you think this is going to run us at the end of our bill? What would you say?
The water?
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be $20.
What do you think? What would you think?
I would say maybe it's like nice $7 water.
Yeah, $7 or $8 water. Yeah. So what's interesting is when it comes to now, here's the thing that you don't know: the water's actually free. They just bring it in, and nobody said that it cost anything in the first place.
They had a fancy container.
The thing about this is really crazy. The thing about anchoring, and attorneys use this all the time. They will bring up a fact as if that is the fact, or a number if this is the number. And they do this, and this happens in sales a lot too. By the way, if you're a real estate agent, you want to know a real good hack, you start by saying 7% if you want to earn a higher commission rate. Because then when the person is asked, well, how much do you think this is going to actually cost us? They are going to target a number that's a lot higher because you gave them a number in the first place. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If you were to ask somebody, how much do you think this water at our table is going to run? The average person would say, well, nothing, it's water.
Yeah.
But I started you off with a bias. I said, it looks like it's about $20.
Yeah.
So you instantly said, yeah, about $7.
I honestly was imagining like some fancy bottle.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even if it was,
but at the end of the day, it's
you're
just
now
water.
willing to pay $7 for a bottle of water. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
They use this on us all the time.
It's super crazy, especially because I drink tap water sometimes.
Anchoring, we'll go through that. Before making a decision, okay, so the way that anchoring works is people will present you with numbers or facts with instead of your opinion first on something, right?
Yeah, and because they're trying to.
Do you want to hear another fun one?
Yeah.
Okay, this Wendy's. So you got me on these nugs. So
Wendy's nuggets.
All right, here's the thing. I don't know if you know this. So we were working really late one night. Summer decides that she's going to go home, and she wants to stop at Wendy's. They give her these nugs. I'm here cleaning up her mess, and so it takes me 45 minutes. I get no nugs. The next day, the only thing I can think about is because she's like texting me. She's like, these are the best I've ever had in my life. They gave me all these extra ones. She's like, look at how drippy the sauce is. She's sending pictures of her eating them. And I was starving. Okay. So she didn't say they gave me extra. I'm driving back across the road to drop them off to you. No, she drove herself home, ate them, and then told me how wonderful they were.
I feel like a bad person.
I only brought this up now live.
Yeah.
No, but really what happened was that's all just a joke.
I don't think
what happened was for 2 days all I could think about was Wendy's nuggets.
Nice.
Here's the crazy part. Wendy's knew this, right?
Yeah.
So guess what I got when I was looking for lunch the other day?
Coupons.
Guess what showed up? A free 10-piece nugget with any purchase from Wendy's.
Did you get it?
I did, and I was super disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the point. I thought, well, I'll get a Frosty to go along with this. Okay. Here's another way that they use this against us. A small Frosty is $1.89.
Mm-hmm.
A medium Frosty, which is what's known as a throwaway choice, a medium Frosty is $3.19. A large Frosty is $3.29. So even though you thought, oh, I could just use a small, then when they show you the comparative pricing and you see the large The medium is 10 cents less than a large. What does your brain instantly say it's going to do?
Come on.
I'll just go with the large.
Just spend the extra couple bucks or whatever.
Couple bucks, 10 cents. That's because what people don't realize is it wasn't the couple cents. That middle choice for almost anything when it comes to fast food, you see this on websites all the time. They say, here's 3 columns, choose one. This one's the best offer. They're using your bias against you because now your brain says, oh, it's only a 10-cent difference. No, it wasn't. It was a $3 difference between what you were originally going to get and what you ended up getting.
Right.
They used your biases against you. Isn't that crazy?
It is. You want to know what's funny?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I was actually doing this with steak. Okay. Wait, don't judge me.
I'm not. No judgment.
So I was door dashing steak from a restaurant.
Never mind. I'm judging. What?
I don't know. I really wanted it. I was like, is this crazy that I'm spending this much money for someone to like cook steak and bring it to me? You know what I mean? Like I should just go to the store. But I wasn't going to do that.
Nope.
We all knew I was not going to do that.
Not doing it.
So I'm looking at the menu and it's like, okay, there's the 13 ounce, the 33 ounce, or like the whatever ounce. Forrest Tackett says, hey guys, hi Forrest, how are you? So basically I'm looking at the prices and I'm looking at the steak and I'm like, I really only need like this 13 ounce steak. Like I don't even eat that much. You know what I mean? But then there's an 18 ounce above it. That's $3 extra. And then there was a 33 ounce. That would have been like $4 or $5. And the whole time I'm doing this math in my head. Yeah. What steak did I get?
The most expensive
33 ounce steak. Yeah, I spent the most money for because I was justifying.
They put something similar next to it, and you think, well, your brain thinks it's only a small amount difference. Yeah, it's not. It's a large difference from where you're originally going to be.
And at the end of the day, I didn't eat the whole dang steak.
So you want to hear a fun? You want to hear a fun one? And this sales technique goes back to men's clothing. So way back in the day, what would happen is you'd go into a suit shop and you'd say, back then, $100 is way too much for a suit. Nowadays, it's $1,000 for a good tailored suit. But you'd say to yourself, $100 is way too much for a suit. So what they will get you on is they would upsell you if they finally got you into a suit. And they'd negotiate. All right, well, hey, listen, I'll bring it down to $60, and then I'll throw in these $60 pair of socks. All right, and I'll give them to you for half off.
You're like, wow.
Well, when you hear half off, and they're $60 socks, and they're throwing them in, now you only get them for $30, and you're already looking at buying a $100 suit, and now the suit's been knocked down to a more reasonable price. Now you buy all of it. Now you were overcharged for everything. Socks shouldn't cost. Listen, underwear should not cost $60. All right, but it does, especially women's clothing. You guys get ripped off. The smallest amount of clothing, largest amount of money.
I know.
But these add-on sales that they do, it's because they got your brain thinking, all right, I'm already making this big sale. What's another couple bucks? And if everything gets reduced down, why not go for it? Because it's a great deal.
It's a great deal.
The trick about deals, and I think we know this, right?
Yeah.
The thing about deals is deals are really just the regular price we should be paying, and then they've upmarked it and trained us to look for them. Like Kroger is a good example. Kroger does the 10 for 10. If you buy 10 of these, right there, it's $10.
Yeah.
Well, if you read the fine print, it says or it's $1 a piece. Well, that means I don't have to get 10.
No, you don't.
But what do?
You're like, 10 for 10.
You get 10.
You get 10.
You didn't have to do that.
Maybe you only need 4.
It's how it works. So let's move on. Social biases. Social biases is a really interesting thing because what social bias does is it allows us to judge people. It's what our mechanism uses to judge people instantly. And it's really interesting when you get into social bias and even like when you get into stuff like names. Did you know that there's certain states and certain names that people have? Have you ever met somebody that was a plumber and like their last name was Plum or or you've never met Mr. Plum the plumber, or he was in fruit sales?
That would just be crazy.
It's a really interesting thing because if you look at people's names, every now and then you'll come across somebody and like there's a lot of for instance, there's a lot of Barbs that are in hairstyle. Like if you look what a person was raised and how people and with the social situation based around them or where they live, it actually creates almost the person that person can become if they're not aware. This gets really, we're going to have the whole, this gets into a deep conversation.
Yeah.
Do I even want to go into this? 2 photos. We're going to do that one later.
There's a hack for that. Deep, but I kind of get the gist of what you're going towards.
For instance, so let's do this one too. And this is interesting. I'll never forget when I used to work in car sales. Here's a good example. When I worked in car sales, I'll never forget this woman coming onto the lot, and nobody wanted to wait on her because she showed up. She had a longer over jacket on, not really that impressive, regular ripped jeans. She's at a Cadillac dealership. She had a Starbucks, a Speedway coffee in her hand. Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted to wait on her because she looked, social bias, through her appearance, she just looked like somebody that was just out for a joyride.
Yeah.
Okay. I took her up. I took her out. She bought 3 Cadillacs,
nice.
3 Escalades. We delivered them to her house. She happened to be one of the relatives of the Dow family, which in Midland is a huge chemical company. Mm-hmm. She was loaded. She doesn't have to look rich.
No.
But nobody wanted to wait on her because they assumed, based on what she looked like, mm-hmm. that she wasn't going to be able to afford what it was that she was there for.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful when we make those assumptions on people. You're in real estate.
I was going to say, as a realtor, real estate agent.
You ever seen somebody walk in and all of a sudden? Now, the other thing is you got to be careful on the flip side. And this is interesting because as a culture, I think we're getting away from like back in the day, if you were a dude, you're in a navy blue suit with a red tie, white shirt, and you're shaved, mm-hmm. clean shaven. If you weren't that, you weren't being taken seriously in the business world.
Yeah.
It's very crazy. We have gotten really relaxed in how we can
look. Have. There's a lot of hipster agents.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. I think it's actually really cool is people have just really their personality. They have just captured it and they dress that way. They speak that way. They present themselves that way of, who they are, just so so genuine and true. It's really cool that actually we do that now, but I still think that there's still, some clients or, even business partners that might still social bias these cool new, styles and way that people capture their personality.
Well, it's interesting because, I remember back in the day when technology first started breaking off.
Yeah.
And here's where you gotta, it's weird because you got this fine balance. I will tell you myself personally, and I learned this from my first coach, Burino, who has since passed on. This is the first thing he ever taught me is work with people that want to work with you. That also means to me then, and you can run your business however you want to, but that means that they get me fully. I don't want to I'm not a dress to the nines guy. I like wearing shiny, flashy suits. I like my flashy suit jackets. I take them out.
Yeah.
But I don't have ties underneath it and vests and pocket watches and all this other stuff. It's just not my style, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel as comfortable trying to portray myself as this person. And the other thing is I know that I have the expertise, especially when it comes to selling homes. I know that I have the expertise to outdo most people. And here's a great example. I went on a listing appointment once, and it was for a really big listing.
Forrest said, "My clothes just look wrinkled. They're actually skin tight." Nice.
All right, prove it. Pictures or it didn't happen.
That's a good one.
So I'm out at this house, mm-hmm. and I instantly knew what I was going to do for this house. I was going to hire a drone to come through. I knew my drone guy that was really good at it. Multi-million-dollar home right off of a lake. And this home was an artist home. And every corner of this house, this guy had this fancy artwork set up. We got along really, really well. And I had a plan. Mm-hmm. When you first open the door, you were going to hear classical style jazz music playing. And what you were hearing was each individual instrument that was set up in each individual corner of the house. So when you first walk in, there was a guy playing a violin, and then the drone zooms into the dining room and you have a horn.
That's so cool.
I know. I had it all priced out and everything.
Yeah.
And it would have sold the home because the home would have gotten attention. Mm-hmm. And this was back when homes didn't get attention. you had to do some really crazy things. And I used to do really crazy. I threw a realtor off a boat one time in the middle of a lake, and he couldn't swim and hated the water. And
you were like, it's my listing.
No, it was all to get attention, and everybody in the neighborhood.
Oh, were you like shooting videos and stuff?
We were shooting videos.
That is so funny. Imagine you're watching like a video drone tour. You just see the agent like get thrown in the water.
We went out in the middle of this boat, in the middle of this lake, and everybody in every this lake, all these people are watching us.
Yeah,
people are driving by in boats, just staring, trying to figure out what we're doing. And I rocked it. I threw him right into the lake. He had to, and then I left him. So I left him and then filmed him swimming up to the beach, and he's afraid of water.
Yeah.
But what a great video.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is like people are going to watch that video at the end of the day.
Boom. And everybody in the neighborhood.
That's all that matters.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew that house was for sale.
100. They're like, oh, the house.
What was happening?
Like that house.
So back then we had to do a lot to get attention. And I'm really good at getting attention. So we would do things like this. So I had this whole plan set up. He decided to go with an older agent. And I mean like older, like a real estate one agent. I think they were like 86, semi-retired.
Yeah.
And it was just because of how they dressed and how old they were. He had a bias.
Yeah.
Well, his home sat on the market for 2.5 years.
Well,
lots of price reductions. And guess what that agent did? They went through with a standard photographer, took stale photos. There was no video with that house. We're talking a multi-million-dollar house. No video, no drone shots.
Yeah.
And sat stagnant on the market because nobody paid attention to it.
But it's very true because, like you said, clients, like I said, even some business partners, stuff like that, like they will look at you based on that. And it's kind of a shame.
It is, but at the end of the day, work with people
that want to work with you. Yeah. Honestly, to me, I think the only thing that really matters to me is that you put some time and effort into your appearance, because that is important, I think, in our industry. You are literally your own business. So represent your business well. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think that necessarily means it has to be a suit and tie every single time. Just something nice.
I love this. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I wanted to come up with questions and answers for this, and then we'll end it on the. Oh no, I'm going to end it with this instead. Okay. Let me not ask you a question. Let me ask you a question and not ask you one at the same time.
Okay.
That was it. No, I'm good. Have you ever read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
No.
Okay. So in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the author Stephen Covey talks about a concept of positive mental deposits into what he calls your emotional bank. At the end of the day, if there's one thing that I want people to know, it's this right here. And this is what you put in is what you get out with all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. If you are having a bias towards something, if you want to prove that you're right, you can go on Google and prove that you're right. Mm-hmm. The question I want you to go back to is, though, how does that serve you? Are you just trying to win an argument, or are you skewing the information so you can feel like you're right, even though, like look at flat earthers. I mean, they will die on a pedestal saying that the earth is flat, even though there's all this proof that you're not a flat earther, are you?
No.
Okay, good. Because you're looking at me. I'm like, do we have to have a discussion?
No.
But no matter what the proof is, they'll go on Google and find some crazy guy on YouTube and be like, yeah, but Robert, the spaceman says that the earth is flat and he agrees with my point of view.
Right.
Well, why not challenge that point of view and then see, okay, I'm going to go with both of these and see what comes out most. At the end of the day, though, what you put in is what you get out. So make sure that what you're putting
those positive mental composites
is yes. That way you can pull them back out.
Yep.
Because just like a bank, you deposit and you withdraw. And the more negative you deposit in, guess what's going to come out? More negative.
More and more.
The more positive, the more positive that's going to come out, right? Yep. So, anywho, I've got 17 more pages of stuff that we're not going to get through
That's
today.
Okay. My computer's about to die soon anyway. So
it all worked out.
All working out.
Perfect.
So
it is that time.
So it's that time. It's time to... We're going to hit the lights, shut the door, pull the sign, and we're going to end this open house today. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and I hope you have a great week.
Awesome. And then for those of you that are watching live, make sure that you put in the comments down below, if you watch this after the fact, what music style should we have? What music style will represent this episode?
Pick something fun.
And we will have that song play when the official episode launches on Tuesday. Thank you for watching. We'll watch you guys. We're watching you. Watch us.
Goodbye, my friends. Have a great week.
Peace.